The courtroom was silent. Only the sound of paper flipping and soft whispers could be heard. The judge sat tall behind the bench. A large clock ticked on the wall. It was 9:32 a.m. Jalen, a 15-year-old black teenager, stood in front of the judge. His hands were in cuffs. He wore an old hoodie and looked down at the floor. His eyes didn't meet anyone's. The court officer read out loud, Jalen Carter, accused of breaking into a local store and stealing electronics, no previous record, found with a damaged phone and 2 USB drives. People in the courtroom shook their heads. Some looked at Jalen with disgust. Others didn't look at him at all. Jalen didn't speak. He didn't defend himself. He just stood there, like he didn't care what happened next. But inside, Jalen's heart was beating fast. He wasn't scared of going to jail. He was scared of what would happen if he said the wrong thing, or worse, if he said nothing at all. Minutes earlier, that morning, Jalen sat in the waiting cell behind the courtroom. An officer had given him a bottle of water. He didn't drink it. Instead, Jalen looked at a small piece of paper in his sock. He had written on it in shaky handwriting. He wasn't sure if the judge would read it. He wasn't sure if anyone would believe him, but it was his only chance. He folded the note tightly and kept it hidden in his hand. Back to the courtroom, the judge looked at Jalen carefully. "Son," he said slowly, "do you understand the charges against you?" Jalen nodded once. The judge sighed. "You're young. This could have been a mistake. I'm giving you a chance to speak. Is there anything you'd like to say before I decide your punishment?" Jalen looked up. His lips trembled. The courtroom watched in silence. Then he whispered, "Can I give you something?" The judge raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Jalen pulled out the folded note from his sleeve. "Just, please read it, sir. Please." The officer beside Jalen took the note and walked it up to the judge. The judge unfolded the paper. He began to read. Then his face changed. His hands froze. His eyes widened. He looked down at Jalen, then back at the note. He read it again, and again his jaw clenched. Then he stood up. "Clear the courtroom," the judge shouted. Now, the room exploded in confusion. People stood up. Lawyers looked at each other. The guard beside Jalen pulled him back, confused. "Get all civilians out of this room." The judge barked again. "This is now a federal matter," one of the clerks asked. "Sir, what's happening?" The judge didn't answer. Instead, he picked up the red phone beside his bench. He dialed. "This is Judge Henderson. I need immediate federal backup at City Courthouse." Code red. I repeat, code red. What was in the note? Nobody in the courtroom knew. No one except the judge and Jalen, but the note was short. Just 3 lines. "They keep kids in the basement. I escaped. The others are still there. If I speak out loud, they'll kill my sister." It was signed, Jalen Carter. Back in the private room, Jalen now sat alone in a white room with 2 FBI agents and Judge Henderson. He stared at the wall. He hadn't spoken another word. "Is this real?" one agent asked. The judge nodded. "He's scared, but I've seen fear before. This isn't fake," Jalen whispered. "They watched me every day after school. I had to pretend I was bad, so they wouldn't hurt my sister." One agent leaned forward. "Who are they, Jalen?" He didn't answer. "Where is this basement?" Still no answer. The second agent pulled out a photo. "Do you know this man?" Jalen looked at it and blinked fast. Tears filled his eyes. He nodded. "That's Dr. Wade. He runs the help center." But it's a lie. The truth begins to break out by now. The courthouse was locked down. FBI vehicles had pulled in. Officers in suits walked through the halls with files and radios. The media had no clue what was happening, but something had changed. A teenager who was once just a petty thief had suddenly become the center of a major federal case. Outside the courtroom, a woman in a blue dress stood by the entrance. She watched everything quietly. She held a phone in her hand, texting someone fast. Then she left. No one noticed her, but she had been watching Jalen closely from the beginning, and she didn't look surprised when the judge called for backup. Later that evening in a secured FBI building, the agents looked at Jalen's note again. It had fingerprints, dirt marks, bloodstains on one corner. But what caught everyone's attention were the words, "They keep kids in the basement." The agents knew what that could mean. They'd seen cases like this before, but never from a child brave enough to speak. Agent Miller turned to Judge Henderson. "Sir, we believe him, and if he's right, then we're not just dealing with a local crime." Henderson nodded. "I know. That's why I called you." Then he looked down at Jalen through the one-way mirror. "The question is, how much more is he hiding?" Jalen sat in the cold, quiet FBI room. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't touched the juice box on the table. He just stared at the wall, knees pulled to his chest. His hoodie looked too big on his small frame. His face showed fear, but not just fear of punishment. This was something deeper, something darker. The note was real. Judge Henderson had handed the note over to the FBI agents. They scanned it, studied the handwriting, and even tested it for fingerprints. Everything matched Jalen's prints, dirt under the folds, and a blood smear on the corner. "What happened to him?" Agent Miller asked. The other agent, Daniels, replied, "Or maybe what happened to someone else." The interview. The 2 FBI agents walked into the room. Jalen didn't move. "Hey Jalen," Agent Miller said softly. "We're here to help you, but we need your help too." Jalen looked down. "Do you know where they are keeping the other kids?" Jalen didn't speak. Your sister? Is she still there? Still no answer, but then a tear rolled down Jalen's cheek. Flashback. 3 weeks ago, Jalen and his sister Amaya were at the River Path Youth Center, a place that looked like a safe space for troubled kids. Amaya had scraped her knee. A woman, with kind eyes and gloves, led her inside. Jalen tried to follow, but the woman smiled and said, "She'll be out in a few minutes." Jalen waited and waited. Amaya never came out. Back to prison, Jalen whispered his first real sentence to the agents. "They lied to me." Agent Daniels leaned in. "Who lied to you?" "Everyone. The woman, the man at the desk, even my school counselor. They said it was a program to help Amaya." His voice cracked, "But she never came back out. I asked for her, and they said she was taken to another center." "Which center?" Miller asked. Jaylen closed his eyes. "I don't know the name, but I saw a paper once. It had a red stamp. It said Project Wren." The agents looked at each other. That name meant something. Something big. The system was. Agent Daniels left the room and called a federal contact. "I need intel on something called Project Wren." The voice on the other end went quiet, then replied, "You're stepping into something. Classified. You sure you want to keep going?" Daniels answered. "A child handed us a note. He escaped something, but others didn't. We're not walking away." Meanwhile, someone was watching in a black car parked outside the courthouse. A woman sat with a laptop on her lap. The same woman in the blue dress from part 1. She had a file. Open. Photos of Jaylen. Photos of Amaya. Photos of FBI agents. She pressed a button and spoke into a voice recorder. Subject: Jalen Carter has broken silence. Agents now involved. Move phase 2 into action. Inside the holding room, Jalen finally opened up. He told the agents everything he could remember. The names of some people at the center, a strange metal door underground, a hallway with numbers but no names, screams at night, the smell of chemicals. He drew a small map from memory. It wasn't perfect, but it had key details. The agents scanned the map and froze. It matched a closed military facility in the records, officially abandoned 10 years ago, but Jalen described it like he was just there yesterday. Time was running out. The agents left the room. Judge Henderson was waiting outside. "Well?" he asked. Daniels nodded. "We believe him, 100%. This is real." Henderson asked, "What's the plan?" "We move fast," Agent Miller said. "If they know he's talking, they'll move. The kid's a gun or worse." Henderson looked worried. He had seen many cases, but this was the kind that changed lives or ended them. The last line of the note. Later that evening, Agent Miller looked at the note again. Something clicked. She hadn't paid attention to the last scribble at the bottom, in the corner, almost invisible, were 3 letters, JSR. She typed them into the federal database. One match popped up. JSR, Juvenile Secure Research. It wasn't a hospital, not a school, but a government-funded experimental site shut down after abuse reports. Officially closed, but unofficially still operating. It was just past midnight. 2 black SUVs rolled down a quiet back road, their headlights off. Inside the cars were 4 FBI agents and 1 nervous judge, Judge Henderson. They were heading to an old property, listed as abandoned, but drawing had matched it exactly. The trees, the broken fence, the dirt road. Everything was there and deep beneath that place. They believed children were being kept. The building was alive from the outside. It looked like an old youth center, boarded windows, rusted signs, and a dusty playground. A swing moved slowly in the wind. Agent Miller whispered, "Looks harmless." Agent Daniels replied, "That's the point." They walked to the side door Jalen had drawn. A keypad was there. It still had power. Daniels connected a device. After a few seconds, clicked. The door opened. They stepped inside. Underground. Secrets. The building inside was empty. No beds, no papers, no sound. Until they found a locked metal door behind a fake bookshelf. Daniels opened it. A set of stairs led downward. Into darkness. They turned on flashlights. As they moved deeper, the walls changed, no longer brick and wood, but metal and steel. They were no longer in a center. They were inside something else. The rooms below. The hallway below was long and cold. There were numbered doors. Room 1, Room 2. Each had a small glass window like a jail cell. Inside Room 3, they found a stuffed animal and scratch marks on the walls. In Room 6, they found a mattress, soaked in something dark. Agent Miller's voice shook. "Someone was here recently." They kept moving, finding a supply closet full of children's clothes, plastic food trays, and files. Lots of files. With photos of children, their names, ages, schools, and 1 folder labeled Carter, Amaya. Amaya's file. Judge Henderson opened the folder. Inside, a photo of a little girl, Amaya, 10 years old. Smiling. Next to it was a page marked, "Subject moved to Delta Site. Date, 3 days ago." Daniels cursed. "They moved her just like Jalen said." Miller added, "They're always 1 step ahead." But then, something strange happened. Room 12 made a noise. A low, soft tap, tap, tap. They rushed to the door and opened it. Inside was nothing, just a camera hanging from the ceiling, broken, but on the wall, written in crayon, "Don't stop looking. Some of us are still here." a warning left behind in the final room. They found a USB stick plugged into a screen nearby. It played security footage. Grainy, black and white video, children being led down hallways. No talking, just fear. One clip showed Amaya. She looked up at the camera. Her lips moved. She said one word. Then someone had been watching outside. In the trees, a pair of eyes followed the agents. A woman whispered into a phone. They found the basement. Begin cleanup at Delta site. No loose ends. She turned and vanished into the night. Back at the FBI office, the agents brought back the files and they ran the names in the system. Most of the children were listed as runaways. One agent said, they were never missing by accident. They were taken and hidden here. Agent Miller called in more support. A full investigation was launched, but they knew this was only the beginning. It was a rainy morning. Jalen sat in a quiet FBI waiting room, a blanket over his shoulders. He hadn't said much since last night, but when Agent Miller asked Jalen who mentioned the Delta site, he gave a name, one that shocked him. Mr. Blake, my school counselor. The counselor who seemed to Blake had always been calm, gentle, and helpful. He ran special sessions after school for troubled kids. That's how he met Jalen. That's how he met Amaya too. He always said, you can trust me, and Jalen did. Until that day. Flashback. The day it all changed 3 months ago. Mr. Blake pulled Jalen aside. I think your sister needs help. There's a center I work with. They can support her better than home can. Jalen had said no. He didn't want to be separated from Amaya. But later that week, Amaya was gone. Blake told him, your mom signed the papers. But Jalen knew the truth. His mom never signed anything. The agents began the hunt. FBI agent Daniels dug deeper into Mr. Blake's records. Nothing unusual at first. Good job history, clean background. But when they checked his real name, they found something else. His real name wasn't Blake. It was Aaron Briggs. And he wasn't just a school counselor. He was a contractor for a private research group, a group tied to the name Project Ren. The name that keeps coming back. Agent Miller's hands trembled as she pulled up the file. Project Ren had been shut down by the government 6 years ago, but certain private funders had kept it alive off the record. They promised to reform troubled youth. Instead, they were using them, testing drugs, mind experiments, tracking fear responses, all hidden under the name of youth behavior correction. And Aaron Briggs, Mr. Blake, was one of their key field operatives. Back at Jalen, school agents arrived quietly. They entered the office where Mr. Blake worked. His desk was clean, too clean. Inside a locked drawer, they found files on over 40 students, 3 burner phones, and a key marked DS Delta site. But Mr. Blake was gone. The school principal said he hadn't shown up that day. His car was missing. His house? Empty. Everything wiped. He was running. And he had a head start. Jalen remembers something back at the FBI office. Jalen sat with Judge Henderson. He looked scared, but then, his eyes lit up. I remember something. Judge Henderson leaned forward. What is it, Mr. Blake? He once told me Delta site wasn't far. He said it's near water. He said it's safer underground. Agent Daniels whispered, that could be the old naval base. Abandoned years ago, right next to Lake Ridge. Agent Miller stood up. That's it. That's where they're hiding them. Meanwhile, at the Delta site, Amaya sat in a small dark room. There was no window, only one small light above her. Hugged her knees. Footsteps came from outside the metal door. She whispered, Jalen, please find me. The woman in the blue dress returns in another room at the Delta site. The same mysterious woman watched a screen. She looked at Amaya through a live feed. She pressed a button and said, Jalen Carter has revealed too much. Prepare the transfer. We leave by midnight. The storm was getting worse. Winds howled across the lake as FBI agents moved fast, following the only lead they had, an abandoned naval base near Lake Ridge. Time was short. If they didn't reach it by midnight, the children, including Amaya, disappear forever. In the Vangeline sat quietly in the back of the FBI. Vanny held the drawing of the basement he had made earlier. He pointed to a spot. There's a tunnel under here. That's where I last saw her. Agent Miller nodded. We'll find her, I promise. But Jalen's hands were shaking. She's scared. I know she is. Back at Delta site, the clock on the wall blinked. 11:07 p.m. inside the Delta site. Workers moved fast. Children were being loaded into black vans. Each had a blindfold. Each looked terrified. Amaya sat in the second van. She whispered again, Jalen, please come. The woman in the blue dress stood nearby, holding a tablet. Transport in 15 minutes, she said calmly. Make sure the girl is last. She's the key. Arrival at the base. The FBI convoy stopped outside tall, rusted gates. The building looked abandoned, but the energy felt alive. We breach in 5, Daniels said. Judge Henderson, now part of the team, stayed in the command van. His face was pale. He had signed papers years ago, papers that unknowingly funded these youth programs. Now he saw the truth. Breaking in, the agents moved fast. Cutting through the fence, Jalen showed them the hidden door behind the water pump. It was just like he remembered. Steel, heavy, cold. Daniels placed an explosive charge on the lock. Boom. The door flew open, and the team rushed in. Chaos inside. Lights flickered as the agents moved through the underground halls. Shouts were heard, footsteps running. A loudspeaker warned. Security breach. All units evacuate. Children screamed from behind metal doors. The agents started unlocking rooms. One by one, scared faces came out. Some were too weak to walk, some hugged the agents in silence. Jalan runs ahead. Jalan suddenly saw a hallway he recognized. He screamed and broke free from the group. Miller yelled, "Jalen, wait," but it was too late. Jalen ran into the back tunnel. A door at the end was closing. He slid under it just in time. Brother and sister reunite inside the van. Amaya heard footsteps, then she saw him. Jalen, Amaya. They hugged tightly, both crying. But then a voice behind them. "You shouldn't be here." It was the woman in the blue dress. Face to face with evil, the woman pointed a small gun at Jalen. "You two are valuable, but if I have to, I'll end this now." Jalen stood in front of his sister. "You won't hurt her." The woman smiled coldly. "You're brave, just like your mother." Jalen froze. "What did you say?" The woman tilted her head. "You don't know, do you? She used to work for us." Boom! Agents break in. Before she could say more, the metal door burst open. FBI agents rushed in, dropped the weapon. The woman paused, then raised her hands, but her smile stayed. "This isn't over," she whispered. Agent Miller handcuffed her. "It is for you. The kids are safe." For now outside, dozens of children were placed in warm blankets. Amaya clung to Jalen's hand. Judge Henderson looked around at the scene, so many young lives taken from their families. He whispered, "How did it go this far?" Agent Daniels said, "Because no one listened. Until now." Jalen stared at the photo. His hands were cold. There she was, his mother, smiling beside the woman in the blue dress. The back of the photo had only one line. "Test subject number 12. Recovered. Status unknown," he whispered. "Why is she in that picture?" Questions with no answers. Agent Miller looked at the note again. "This photo is real. The file says she was part of something called Phase 1. Jalen's voice cracked. "My mom wasn't part of this. She cleaned houses. She worked double shifts. She loved us," Judge Henderson gently said. "Son, sometimes people hide things to protect the ones they love." A hidden file on the woman's tablet. The FBI's tech team unlocked the tablet found in the woman's bag. It had a hidden folder named Mother Code Ember. Inside were reports, photos, and one short video. They opened it. The screen showed a dark room. Jalen's mother sat in a chair, wires connected to her arms and head. A voice asked her, "Do you remember your children?" She replied softly, "Yes, Jalen and Amaya. I must protect them." Then she looked straight at the camera. "If you find this, please tell my kids I did this to save them." Jalen fell silent. A tear rolled down his cheek. Amaya speaks up. "Night," Amaya whispered to Jalen. "I remember something. About Mom?" Jalen turned to her. "She once told me, if anything ever happened, I should find the necklace under her old bed." Jalen's eyes widened. "That wooden box." Amaya nodded. She said, "Never open it unless it's life or death." Back to their old apartment the next day. The agents took Jalen and Amaya to their old apartment. It was dusty, quiet, untouched. In the small bedroom, Jalen crawled under the bed. He pulled out a wooden box. He opened it slowly. Inside was a folded paper. The paper had a map and 2 words. ECHO. Agent Daniels looked at the map. This isn't just a location," Agent Miller added. "It's a restricted government site, shut down 12 years ago, but not erased." The truth starts coming out. They searched deeper into the files. Turns out, Jalen's mom, Maya Carter, was once a research assistant. She discovered children were being used for secret experiments. When she tried to expose them, she was marked as a threat, so she ran, changed her name, started a new life, and raised her kids in hiding. But they caught her anyway. Years later, the program found her. They didn't arrest her, they didn't kill her, they used her. Brain scans, memory testing, obedience control. That's why she disappeared one night without a word. That's why the children were always the target. Because Maya had passed on something special to her kids. The drive to Echo Point was long and quiet. Jalen sat beside Maya in the back seat of the black SUV. The map his mother had left was folded in his hands. He had read it 10 times, but one thought kept repeating in his mind. What did they do to her, and what do they want from us? Arriving at Echo Point, the team reached the old site at sunset. From the outside it looked like an abandoned science station. Cracked walls, broken glass, rusted fences. But Agent Daniels said, places like this never really close. They just go dark. The gate had a symbol on it, one Jalen recognized from his mother's necklace. A red circle with 3 arrows. Amaya whispered, "It's the same." Agent Miller replied, "That's their mark. The ones behind everything." Underground doors and hidden paths. The team found a hidden elevator, powered by a backup generator. As it rumbled downward, the walls around them turned from stone to smooth metal. The air grew colder. Jalen's heart pounded. When the elevator stopped, they stepped into a long hallway. Everything was clean. Too clean. Lights turned on by motion. Doors were marked. Test room up. Holding room 3. Observation bay. This wasn't abandoned. Someone was still using this place. Footsteps in the dark. Suddenly footsteps fast, heavy. The team froze. A man in a lab coat turned the corner. He saw the man ran. "Stop, Agent Daniels," shouted Dot. They chased him down the corridor and caught him near the main lab. He was shaking. "I didn't know anyone would come. Please, I was just following orders." Jalen stepped forward. "Do you know my mother? Maya Carter." The man froze. Then, nodded slowly. "She's still here." The room with the number 12, the man led them to a sealed chamber marked Subject 12. Status inactive. Inside, behind a thick glass wall, lay a woman on a medical bed. She had wires on her head, tubes in her arms, machines blinking beside her. Voice cracked. "Mom?" Amaya covered her mouth and cried. The man explained. "She's alive, but in stasis. They kept her here to study long-term effects. Her mind is active, but locked." The shocking truth? Why the kids were targeted, Agent Miller asked. Why her? Why the kids? The scientist hesitated. Because of her blood. And theirs. She was part of a rare group. Her children inherited something. Jalen stepped forward. Inherited what? The man looked him in the eye. Fear resistance. Your bodies don't respond to fear the way others do. That makes you valuable or dangerous, he added. When you don't feel fear like others, you make choices no one expects. You're harder to control. The program's real asked, "Why take us?" The man replied, "You were supposed to be part of a new generation. Kids who couldn't be broken. They wanted to train you not to save you, but to use you. As weapons?" Jalen whispered. "My mom knew. That's why she hid us." The man nodded. "And that's why they silenced her." Unlocking the Daniels forced open the stasis chamber. The air inside was freezing. Jalen ran to the bed and took his mother's hand. "Mom, it's me, Jalen. I'm here now. We found you for a moment." Nothing. Then her fingers moved. Her eyes opened. "Slowly?" She whispered. Red lights flashed across the underground lab. Sirens echoed in the halls. Jalen held his mother's hand tightly. Her eyes were open but weak. Amaya stayed close to her side. Agent Miller looked at them and said, "We have to move now." Escape? Under fire, the FBI team led the way through the side exit tunnels, but guards were already closing in. Dark uniforms, high-tech weapons. They weren't police. They weren't military. They were private. Silent, deadly. Shots rang out. The agents fired back while shielding the children, and Maya.Jaylen didn't let go of her hand. "We're not leaving you again." Reaching the surface after a long run through smoke-filled tunnels, they burst through a hidden exit near the forest. Helicopters hovered above. FBI backup had arrived, but so had the enemy. A black truck blocked their path. From the back stepped out a familiar figure, the woman in the blue dress. But this time, she wasn't smiling. She looked directly at Jalen. "You should have stayed hidden," she said coldly. Jalen stepped in front of his mother and sister. "We're not afraid of you anymore." The power of truth. Suddenly Judge Henderson walked forward. He held a tablet high. "I've uploaded all the files. Every photo. Every video. Every experiment. The world will know." The woman's eyes widened. "You don't know what you've done." Judge Henderson replied, "No. I finally know what I should have done years ago." A broadcast that changed everything across the country. News channels buzzed. Social media exploded. The files from Echo Point were now public. Parents saw photos of missing children. Whistleblowers came forward. A dark, hidden program was now exposed. And, at the center of it, all a brave teen and his little sister. 1 month later, Jalen sat beside his mother at a hospital recovery center. She could talk now. Slowly but clearly. Amaya drew pictures by the window. Their story had made headlines. Black teen saves dozens after secret program uncovered. Family who brought down Echo Point. But Jalen didn't care about fame. He only cared that his mother was safe and his sister was smiling again. A visit from the FBI agent Miller visited them one last time. She handed Jalen a sealed folder. "What's this?" he asked. She smiled. "Your mother wanted you to have it. It's everything she learned. And everything they still don't want you to know." Inside were documents. Maps. Names. But also, a note in his mother's handwriting. "You were born with strength they'll never understand. Use it to protect, use it to lead, and never let fear decide your future." Final scene. The choice ahead at night. Jalen stood on the rooftop, looking at the stars. Amaya joined him. "Do you think it's really over?" she asked. Jalen paused. "No, but it's just the beginning." Behind them, Maya stood at the window, smiling, because for the first time in years, her family was together, and they were no longer running. They were ready to fight back.